All right, I'm Russ Curtis, Western Carolina University's counseling program, and this is part 2 of undisclosed infidelity, and we're still focused on understanding somebody who would betray. Okay, so again, we're not talking about people in polyamorous relationships or open relationships, or really even with just a one-time affair. People that serially betray, we need to understand those characteristics when we're working with the client to help them process. So one of the other things we need to look at is it's called face threatening, and again, somebody may be further along on the narcissistic personality disorder scale. So to have their face threatened, if you will, to be outed, is problematic and an extreme threat to them. So that's when they bring in gaslighting, as we talked about in the first video. They will use, folks who betray will use self-defense-based cognitive restructuring. And what that is to keep from being known, they're rationalizing to themselves. So they may say, for example, I was the one who ended the affair, okay? So therefore, I don't need to tell anybody about this. Or I want to make sure my kids don't find out about this, so I'm not going to disclose, even when asked or confronted. I don't want for this to have deleterious effects in the divorce court because sometimes, depending on the state, if somebody's had an affair, it can mean the person has to pay more money or what have you. So that's some of the cognitive restructuring they're using to defend against telling the truth. One thing, if you confront somebody, another thing to pay attention to, if you confront somebody about having an affair, and they deny it, but then they start talking about other people having an affair. That's something to watch out for as a sign. So it's kind of this deflection, and they're trying to normalize it. And then another thing is, let's see here, sometimes, let's say somebody's had an affair for a while, they're finally confronted, and they may feel some guilt. If they're really far in on that narcissistic personality disorder scale, probably not. But if there's some guilt, they may feel that and they may acquiesce a little bit like, all right, I need to just kind of be chill here. I'm not going to admit it, but I need to be chill until the person who's accusing becomes angry. When the person accusing has a natural reaction of why they can't get the truth, that's a time when you will see somebody get really angry. And again, the idea here is to manipulate, use emotional abuse to keep you quiet and to let you know it's not okay to question them. These are all things counselors need to keep in the back of their mind when they're working with a traumatized client of betrayal. And by the way, we use the term post-infidelity stress disorder. You're hearing trauma used a lot more, so just know what we're talking about with this. A couple other things, be careful in marriage counseling. If you decide and your partner agrees to go to marriage counseling to discuss this and other things about the relationship, I would say that somebody who has been betrayed and has not, and the partner's denying it, they need their own personal counselor. If they're going to do marriage counselor, it needs to be somebody else. And the reason is the person who's been betrayed needs a coach. And one of the things the coach needs to tell this person is don't share too much in marriage counseling. This sounds terrible. And I know as a counselor, you're like, oh, why is that? Because what's shared in marriage counseling could get back to the person's lover, the partner's lover, to keep the story straight. Also, anything you share in marriage counseling with your partner who you suspect has betrayed you can be used as gaslighting. Okay, so you may share like, oh, well, I had a crush on somebody at one point. That can be used as gaslighting. Yeah, maybe I drink a little bit more than I should. Gaslighting. So you need a coach who's not going to be your marriage counselor, and that coach needs to tell you what not to share in the counseling session. Another thing is a misconception in this field is that affairs are the result of some kind of problem in a relationship, when actually the research shows that the affair is typically more about the person. Now, this is serial betrayal, not a one-time offense, but a serial betrayal is much more about novel sexual gratification. It's not like, oh, we haven't been getting along, we've been married a long time, anything like that. It's just this is somebody who likes to get their needs met and likes novel and likes the intrigue probably of planning, and being secret about that and not getting caught and so forth. So do pay attention, because I've seen counselors do that really poorly. And what that does, and what I've gotten on other videos, is that further traumatizes the client. They're like, oh wow, my partner, I think has betrayed me, has lied about it, has gaslighted me, and now the counselor is saying this was probably some of my fault. So we want to be really careful and do this well. Since there's nothing written about undisclosed, we need to really beef up and make sure that we're doing good counseling. Okay. So we'll talk about more in the next section.